Hello, how are you? Many people who have hypertension or high blood pressure and are struggling to control it tell me that they've already cut salt from their diet. In other words, they've reduced sodium, stopped adding salt when preparing food, or avoided ultra-processed foods, which are usually high in sodium. But even so, they're not seeing the results in their blood pressure that they expected from cutting out salt. For many people, this can happen. Today, I'm going to tell you about 5 things that can make it harder to control your blood pressure. And I think you might be doing 2 or 3 of them at least in your daily routine. It's super important to know what they are so you can avoid them and make a change even today. Your heart will thank you, so stick around until the end. You won't want to miss this. Before we start, I want to ask you, do you have high blood pressure? Have you already been diagnosed? Are you getting regular checkups? The last time you measured your blood pressure, what was the reading? Write it for me down below in the comments and include your age too. I always think it's interesting for us to make that correlation. I would love to see your comment. Remember to like the video. That's super important to me, especially because it shows YouTube that you like the channel and that you trust my content. Before I start telling you about these 5 things that can harm or destabilize your blood pressure without you realizing it, I want to make a point here. Of course, for many people who are sodium sensitive, salt will indeed interfere with blood pressure. But there are people who, as I mentioned, are not sodium sensitive. In other words, sodium doesn't have much of an impact on their diet. And there are people who have already eliminated sodium from their diet and still have trouble controlling their blood pressure. So it's very important to know what other things besides sodium might be affecting your blood pressure. And these are things that people usually end up doing a lot in their daily routines. The first thing is sugar. Many people don't know that sugar can indeed harm our blood pressure. Sugar silently inflames and destroys blood vessels. It can cause a low-grade chronic inflammation that is very persistent. So, when we consume sugar in coffee, juice, cookies, sodas, sweets, desserts, how does the body respond? By releasing insulin. And this happens several times throughout the day, every day, and then the body can develop a state of insulin resistance. This state of insulin resistance is the first step toward metabolic syndrome. And this metabolic syndrome can be related to high blood pressure, fatty liver, altered cholesterol, and chronic inflammation. So, it's very important for us to know that sugar plays this role just as much as, or sometimes even worse than, sodium. Because sometimes you already know about sodium and manage to control it more, but sugar people think there's no problem at all. But there is. There's also the issue of sugar causing glycation, meaning it can have a very harmful effect on blood proteins, forming these advanced glycation end products that harden the arteries, almost as if they become plasticized, reducing elasticity and even increasing the risk of heart attack. There was a study published in JAMA, which is a highly respected scientific journal, that found people who consume more than 25% of their daily calories from sugar have a 3 times higher risk of dying from heart disease. Look at the connection between sugar and the heart. So, if you are someone with hypertension or cardiovascular problems, it's extremely important for you to control the sugar in your diet. When I say this, I don't necessarily mean that you have to stop eating sweet foods altogether. Rather, it's about making good choices, like replacing sugar with stevia or erythritol. Eating sweets made with the natural sugar from fruit or using more natural and healthy sweeteners can be a good option. I have a lot of healthy recipes here, including sweets, that you can add to your daily routine. I'll leave the link for them down below in the description. The second thing that many people do is extreme physical inactivity. This is increasingly being classified as a major cardiovascular risk factor. In fact, the UN is now calling a sedentary lifestyle the new cigarette, just so you have an idea. Because 5 million people die every year from causes related to physical inactivity. And it's not enough to just think, I'll go to the gym 3 times a week for 30 minutes. You have to stay more active in your daily life. Nowadays, it's very common for people to spend the whole day sitting at work, then come home and still use public or private transportation to get to work. By car, bus, train, subway, Uber, whatever it may be. They use some kind of transportation. In other words, they don't walk, they don't ride a bike, none of that. When they get there, they work all day and then go back home using transportation as well. When they get home, what do they want to do? Relax. They sit on the couch, watch TV shows, watch movies, or go lie down. Very sedentary. When you look at it, the body isn't functioning well, the blood isn't flowing as it should, the metabolism isn't active, and the arteries aren't working the way they should. When we stay still for too long, circulation slows down. Lipoprotein lipase, which is the enzyme that removes fat from the blood, decreases. This increases the accumulation of triglycerides and bad cholesterol in our blood. Besides that, we know that the calf muscle is already called the second heart. There's an entire video here talking about that. So, when you don't walk much, you stop pumping the return circulation. This leads to swelling, fluid retention, thrombosis, poor oxygenation, And the result is that the blood becomes thicker and the heart has to work twice as hard, increasing the risk of cardiovascular problems. So, it's very important to move around, walk inside your house, go up and down stairs, avoid the escalator and take the regular stairs, avoid the elevator if you can, and use the regular stairs. Let's get more active again. Your heart and your blood pressure will thank you. Another thing that really harms your blood pressure, and many people don't make the connection, is chronic stress. Nowadays, how many people do you know who say they're highly stressed? This has a lot to do with modern life, for sure, and it's more than just a bad feeling, isn't it? A lot of people downplay this, but you shouldn't, because it's a powerful chemical trigger that really causes us to release cortisol, adrenaline, noradrenaline. These are the stress hormones, the hormones of fight, flight, and survival. What do these hormones do? They raise blood pressure, increase heart rate, make the blood thicker, and put our bodies in a constant state of fight or flight, a state of war, of survival all the time. And there are studies that prove that this excess anxiety, this chronic stress, inflames the endothelium, which is that inner layer of the blood vessels, and over time causes the arteries to lose their elasticity and become more rigid. So, people with chronic stress have up to a 50% higher risk of heart attack. That's why it's extremely important to control stress. I know that sometimes controlling stress isn't that easy, right? It's very simple for me to just say, control your stress, but how? I'm worried about bills to pay. I'm worried about my children, my husband, my parents who are getting older, the world, right? Sometimes we get stressed out by the news. Try to have a moment just for yourself during the day. Do a meditation, say a prayer. If you're a religious person, practice gratitude so you can try to focus on what's positive and reduce your stress. Do a breathing exercise that activates the parasympathetic nervous system. This scientifically helps lower cortisol. I have a video here on the channel talking more about this. And if it's difficult for you, do seek out a psychologist or psychiatrist in your city. You don't have to go through this alone. The fourth thing, which is also very common nowadays, is lack of sleep. Lack of sleep is serious for your heart. We know that during restorative sleep, sleep of good quality, right? A good number of hours per night, our body releases hormones that lower blood pressure, regulate glucose, and repair the arteries. And when you sleep less than 6 hours a night, when your sleep is very shallow, you have those micro awakenings during the night, you wake up, you get up to pee and can't get back to sleep, you produce less melatonin and more cortisol, which speeds up your heart rate and can increase the risk of a heart attack by up to 48%. We also know that people who sleep poorly don't experience that natural phenomenon called nocturnal dipping, which is when blood pressure drops further during the night. So this obviously also harms your blood pressure control and cardiovascular health. Sleep deprivation also increases insulin resistance, stimulates appetite, and leads to more fat accumulation, especially abdominal, subcutaneous, and visceral fat, which is exactly the type of fat linked to metabolic syndrome and cardiovascular diseases. So, it's very important for you to try to get good quality sleep. What can you do to try to improve your sleep? Avoid caffeine in the afternoon and avoid stimulating activities close to bedtime. Have a bedroom with a comfortable temperature, wear pajamas, use breathable cotton bedding, something cooler. You can also avoid having lights in your room and noises in your room. I have several videos here talking about habits and lifestyle changes, things you can do at home that can help you sleep better. And I also have many videos with recipes and teas to help you sleep, to help you fall asleep. I'll leave those videos down below in the description. Lastly, something that's coming back a lot now, it had gotten better, but now it's coming back to get worse, is the issue of smoking. Even if you don't smoke, nowadays, the number of people smoking vapes and other substances, nicotine with regular cigarettes, vapes, these electronic cigarettes, is increasing a lot. It's very complicated because even secondhand smoke can worsen your heart and your blood pressure. Secondhand smoke alone contains toxic substances, which we end up inhaling just by being next to someone who is smoking. Nicotine, carbon monoxide, heavy metals, which enter our bloodstream and cause that vasoconstriction and inflammation related to increased blood pressure. The World Health Organization estimates that 1.3 million people die each year because of secondhand smoke. That's a huge number. So, ideally, we should try to prevent this. So if you live with someone who smokes, the best thing is for that person to try to quit smoking. I hope you don't smoke, because if secondhand smoke is already harmful, just imagine active smoking, right? Where the person is actually smoking themselves. So quitting smoking is very important both for the person themselves and for those who live with them. If you are someone who smokes and you're only worried about your own health, think about the people who live in your house, who work with you, and how they might be affected by this. This could also be harming their health. So sometimes it's not for ourselves, but for others that we manage to make an extra effort, right? For someone we love, a family member. So remember that both active and passive smoking can worsen blood pressure control, and ideally, we should try to quit smoking. When it comes to quitting smoking, it's all or nothing. Ideally, you should really quit smoking. Just cutting down won't necessarily improve the situation that much. And we know, on the other hand, that when a person stops being exposed to these toxic agents, the heart quickly starts to improve. Not just the heart, but also the lungs, the brain, and our body, our metabolism, right? More broadly, this also helps reverse the damage caused by cigarettes. So, I have a video here on the channel that talks more about how to quit smoking without gaining weight, because I know that's a big concern for many people, and I'll leave it down below in the description for you. Now I want to know, out of these 5 things, did you notice that any of them are part of your routine? Which ones? How many? And what are you going to start changing today? I would love to see your comment. Remember to like the video, that's super important to me. And share this video with anyone you know who needs it. Let's expand this chain of good, and that's what I want here for the channel. See you next time. Bye.